Nobody wakes up and decides to ruin their own potential. They just check their phone, and somehow an hour disappears. You tell yourself it was just a break, just a scroll, just a reset. But slowly, almost invisibly, your ability to focus begins to shrink. Not because you're lazy, not because you lack ambition, but because your brain has learned that distraction feels safer than depth. And the frightening part is this: it doesn't feel like addiction, it feels normal. We live in a world where distraction isn't an accident, it's architecture. Your phone, your feeds, your inbox, your streaming platforms, they are engineered to keep you lightly stimulated and never fully satisfied. Small hits of novelty, tiny rewards, infinite options. But this isn't just about wasted time, it's about rewiring. Every time you switch tasks mid-sentence, every time you reach for your phone at the first sign of discomfort, every time you escape into scrolling instead of finishing something hard, you're teaching your brain something specific. Depth is dangerous. Escape is relief. And once that pattern settles in, focus doesn't just become difficult. It starts to feel unnatural. Common advice tells you to just be disciplined. Delete the apps, wake up earlier, try harder. But that misses the real story. Distraction isn't a productivity problem. It's a psychological safety strategy. Inside the mind, what's really happening? Section 1. The micro escape loop. It's 9:17 in the morning, you're at your desk. There's a project open in front of you, important, meaningful, maybe even career-defining. You read the first paragraph and your chest tightens slightly. Not panic, just pressure. A quiet whisper forms. What if this isn't good enough? What if I fall behind? What if I can't pull this off? Before you consciously process those thoughts, your hand moves. You check your phone, just for a second. A notification, a headline, a short video, a message, relief. Your nervous system softens. Your brain records the sequence. Discomfort appeared, we escaped, we survived. Dopamine fires, not from achievement, but from avoidance. Repeat that cycle enough times and your brain stops waiting for major stress. Even mild cognitive effort, reading deeply, planning your finances, writing something thoughtful, triggers the urge to escape. Focus begins to feel like friction. Scrolling feels like oxygen. Section 2. The erosion of depth. Depth requires boredom. It requires sitting with a problem long enough for your mind to move past surface thinking. But when your brain is trained on rapid novelty, endless refreshes, constant notifications, quick bursts of stimulation, stillness feels unbearable. You open a book and reread the same sentence 3 times. You try to watch a long-form conversation and feel restless halfway through. You sit down to review your budget and suddenly feel an urge to check social media. It's not a lack of intelligence, it's conditioning. In fast-moving environments where ambition is high and pressure is constant, everyone seems optimized. Everyone seems ahead. Distraction becomes socially acceptable sedation. You're not wasting time. You're unwinding. You're staying informed. You're keeping up. But quietly, your attention span narrows. And attention is currency. The ability to hold focus on meaningful work, building a career, mastering a skill, understanding money, is becoming rare. And rarity creates leverage. Section 3. Comfort as identity protection. There's another layer. Distraction isn't only about stimulation, it's about identity protection. Imagine someone who wants to start a business, get in shape, or invest seriously for the first time. Taking action means risking evidence. Evidence that you're capable, or evidence that you're not. Scrolling doesn't threaten identity. Going to the gym does. Launching the project does. Opening the investment account does. Distraction keeps your potential hypothetical, and hypothetical potential feels safe. You can always say, I could have done more if I tried. But trying removes the illusion, so the brain chooses the safer path, the tiny glow of a screen over the vulnerability of effort. Section 4. Fragmented thinking and long-term cost. Zoom out further. Distraction doesn't just steal hours, it fragments thinking. And fragmented thinking struggles with long-term strategy. Wealth building requires delayed gratification. Career growth requires sustained focus. Deep relationships require presence. But if your brain is conditioned for immediate novelty, long-term thinking feels abstract. Saving money feels less exciting than a quick purchase. Reading a financial book feels heavier than watching short clips. Learning a skill feels slower than commenting on someone else's success. Over time, this creates a subtle gap, not between you and others, but between you and your own potential. And that gap hurts. So when you feel behind, you scroll. Seeing yourself differently. Here's the shift. You're not weak. Your brain is adaptive. It has simply learned that distraction equals safety. The problem isn't that you lack discipline, it's that your environment has trained your nervous system to avoid depth. Once you see that, something changes. Instead of attacking yourself for being unfocused, you begin asking a different question. What is my brain protecting me from right now? Often the answer is simple: uncertainty, fear of inadequacy, fear of being seen, fear of failing publicly, sometimes even fear of succeeding and having to sustain it. Distraction is emotional anesthesia, and you don't remove anesthesia by shaming the patient. You remove it by creating enough internal safety to stay conscious through discomfort. Retraining your brain. 4 gentle shifts. Number 1. Create a single daily depth window. Start with one daily window of depth. 30 to 60 minutes with no switching and no notification. One task. That's it. Tell your brain, for this hour we are safe. We are not being evaluated. We are simply working. It's not about producing something perfect. It's about rebuilding tolerance for sustained focus. The key here is consistency, not intensity. Even if progress feels small, the act of showing up to that single window each day signals to your brain that it is safe to engage with challenging work. Over time, the brain begins to anticipate these moments, and depth gradually becomes familiar instead of threatening. Think of it as a mental gym session. The first reps are awkward and uncomfortable, but the muscles of focus strengthen with repetition. Number 2. Delay the first scroll. The first 30 minutes after waking shape your dopamine baseline. If the first stimulus is infinite novelty, your brain expects that intensity all day. Instead, sit with quiet, journal, read a few pages, think. It will feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is not failure. It's withdrawal from overstimulation. By deliberately delaying the first scroll, you allow your nervous system to reset. The brain begins to differentiate between urgent signals and habitual impulses. You start the day on your own terms rather than reacting to external stimuli. Over time, this small practice reduces the automatic pull of distraction and improves clarity for the rest of your day. Number 3. Replace escape with awareness. When you reach for your phone mid-task, pause. Don't force productivity. Just notice what emotions surfaced: pressure, boredom, anxiety, self-doubt. Naming the emotion interrupts the automatic loop. Awareness is more powerful than willpower because you cannot change what you refuse to see. The more you practice noticing these micro-emotions, the less they control your behavior. Awareness acts like a spotlight in a dark room, illuminating the patterns that were running unconsciously. Once visible, you can choose a different response: a breath, a pause, or a return to the task, instead of slipping automatically into distraction. Awareness is not effort, it's clarity. Number 4. Micro rewards for depth. One of the hardest parts of deep focus is that the brain has been trained to reward itself immediately for small distraction. To counteract this, introduce micro rewards tied to focused work. For example, after 25 minutes of uninterrupted attention, allow yourself a brief stretch, a single cup of tea, or a moment to step outside. These micro rewards act as positive reinforcement for deep work, retraining the brain to associate focus with small, predictable pleasure instead of constant novelty. Over time, the anticipation of completing these micro rewards strengthens intrinsic motivation for concentration. The key is balance. The rewards should be meaningful enough to encourage consistency, but small enough to prevent breaking the depth state completely. You don't need to become extreme. You need to reclaim your attention, because attention shapes identity, and identity shapes destiny. When you can sit with discomfort a little longer, when you can focus slightly deeper, when you can choose creation over consumption just once more each day, your brain begins to rewire again, this time toward agency. Depth feels less threatening. Focus feels less heavy. Progress feels less forced. Slowly, the gap between who you are and who you could be begins to close. Not because you pushed harder, but because you stopped escaping. The next time you feel the urge to scroll, don't judge it. Study it. There's a story there about what you're avoiding and what you're capable of becoming. If this reflection felt uncomfortably accurate, stay with that awareness. Clarity often begins where distraction ends. And if you're ready to continue exploring the deeper psychology of focus, identity, and building a life with intention, keep going. Not for motivation, for understanding.